Round 8, Jak X Combat Racing vs. Ratchet Deadlocked. During the days of the PlayStation 2, Naughty Dog and Insomniac were bringing platform games into a whole new level. Unlike other game companies, Naughty Dog and Insomniac weren't ignoring each other. They've both done similar actions during their days of the PlayStation 2. Like for example, when Naughty Dog abandoned Crash Bandicoot, Insomniac did the same for Spyro the Dragon. When Insomniac was going to change the formula from the Ratchet series, so did Naughty Dog with the Jak series. And wouldn't you know, on Hot Shots Golf 4, both Ratchet and Jak are unlockable characters, and Dexter and Clank are caddies. This is clearly the best game of the Hot Shots Golf series, hands down. We platform gamers who own the PlayStation 2 were having a blast with the Jak and Ratchet series. It's sad to see that the platform gamers who only owned the Nintendo GameCube only had Super Mario Sunshine as its 3D platform exclusive. But finishing the trilogy wasn't over yet for Naughty Dog and Insomniac Games when they're planning to release their next upcoming games before jumping to the PlayStation 3. The spin-offs. Why? 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 Why would you end your days at the PlayStation 2 with a spin-off? How would this improve on anything? What purpose does this have? Really? Insomniac knew that the gladiator battles were the best parts of the Ratchet and Clank series, so they decided to make it into a whole game, Ratchet Deadlocked. Naughty Dog was going to pull the same move as well, but the problem was, what were they going to make in the Jak series that has already been done that will probably compete with Ratchet spin-off?
If there's one thing I can do, it's race.
What? So Naughty Dog is planning to make another typical popular series into a racing game, Jak X Combat Racing. Okay, so how am I going to compare a racing game to a shooter? It's almost like comparing Doom to Need for Speed, the Beastie Boys to the Beatles, or Animal House to Saving Private Ryan. How is anybody going to compare these two games from two different genres? Crash had a lot of similarities with Spyro, minus the linearity, and Ratchet and Jak were perfect games to compare and contrast. But at this point of the competition, this is where they distance themselves from not ignoring each other and separate their ways in the PlayStation 3. This is where they stop the fun of being similar and putting reference towards each other and decided to go dark and edgy. Really, at this point, they were desperate to be Sony's #1 company because critics overpraised dark and edgy Sony exclusives like God of War. We all knew that in a matter of time, Naughty Dog and Insomniac were going to give up Ratchet and Jak, just like they fucking did with Crash and Spyro. But fortunately, unlike Crash and Spyro, the Jak and Ratchet rights are protected by a different Sony company called High Impact Games, where former members of Naughty Dog and Insomniac teamed up together to leave off where Naughty Dog and Insomniac abandoned. So in other words, the Jak and Ratchet series are not going to be ruined by the hands of retarded companies like Crash and Spyro. Phew, God bless you, High Impact Games. By the way, I have to give that out of the way because this is Naughty Dog and Insomniac's last Jak and Ratchet games exclusively on the PlayStation 2. Jak X Combat Racing. The story begins when Jak, Dexter, Ashlyn, Kira, and Torn receive an invitation to reading Crew's last will, as does Crew's daughter, Rain. After offering a toast, Crew reveals in a recording that everyone present has been poisoned from the toast that they drank. Crew gives them an ultimatum that the only way to obtain the antidote is for everyone to win the race for him in Crash City Championship. Everyone is intoxicated to a slow, deadly poison that gives them enough time before the championship is over. With no other choice, Jak and the gang join the race for the sake of their lives. Okay, so this is another game where there's a popular series having a racing spinoff. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Sarcasm. What's even better is that they're going to use the same racing mechanics from the other Jak games, and we all know that we love the frustrating difficulty and restarting the race every time we die, right? We have to face the same painful memories again, right? Right? Holy shit! What the hell is this game? It's awesome! Wow, all my problems with the Jak games from the racing missions are fixed in this game. You can die in a car explosion so many times and leave off from where you died. That alone fixed everything and made this game a worthy racing game. This game, in my opinion, is a lot more fun than Crash Team Racing and any other Crash racing games ever. This game mixes with wild extreme racing games like Need for Speed and Burnout and mixes it with Mario Kart. But only this time, this game is actually more amusing than any Mario Kart game ever. Jak X has a really great online play, 3 times the speed and features, plus weapons that randomly select your weapons that are extreme beyond belief. There are yellow and red eco weapons, with the yellow eco acting as the offensive weapons that made you attack and destroy opponents, and red eco acting as the offensive weapon to protect players from oncoming attacks, and blue containers that give you a boost on your vehicle. This is actually more balanced than any Mario Kart game ever. Blue freaking turtle shell! I haven't had this much fun in the driving game since Twisted Metal Black, which really needs a sequel on the PS3. This is the first time in the series that you can play other characters besides Jak and Dexter, like Kira, Ashlyn, Torn, and a couple of new more. This is also known as Naughty Dog's first game that has a multiplayer and online play. You have other game modes to play besides a circus race, like Beat the Clock collecting game, Twisted Metal style Demolition Derby, and a ton of stuff more. Also, unlike other racing games ever released, Jak X really has a unique story, probably the best story in any racing game. What's more unique than any other racing game ever released is that anytime you win a race, you unlock a part of the vehicle where you are able to customize it to the way you want to make your dream combat vehicle. Wow, that is innovative, and most people never mentions it when they talk about Jak X. This is a Jak game that is so epic, we didn't really need to see Jak change into light or dark Jak. I know that a lot of you Jak fans were really skeptical with Jak X Combat Racing, but if you give this game a chance and not take this game too seriously, you will love the madness in this game. This game reminded me of all those extreme racing games like Twisted Metal that I missed in the 90s. That's why I give this game a strong 5 fingers out of 5. The same year, Insomniac has released Ratchet Deadlocked. The story picks up right after Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. Ratchet, Clank, and Al were given a job for running the Starship Phoenix. After the crew were informed that many heroes has disappeared, robots overwhelmed the Phoenix, taking Ratchet, Clank, and Big Al captive. Ratchet meets Gleeman Fox, the creator of Dread Zone, a barbaric show in which the contestants try to kill each other. Ratchet is now being forced to compete in Dread Zone, and now is wearing a dreadlock collar in which it will explode if he becomes uncooperative or boring. Ratchet, Clank, and Big Al are referred as Team Dark Star and must fight for their lives. Al serves as the mechanic for Ratchet's new combat bots, Merc and Green, who are replacing Clank, while Clank serves as the mission engineer. The gameplay in Ratchet Deadlocked is similar to the other Ratchet and Clank games, but only this time Clank is not in your mission, only Merc and Green, who follows you around and you give them a set of commands like attack, create a barrier, and more that Clank cannot do. This is the first time in the series where they include co-op, but unfortunately that feature takes off Merc and Green. This Ratchet and Clank game is all about selecting on whatever mission you want to do and complete the mission to advance to a harder and more challenging missions, similar to the gladiator battles in Ratchet and Clank series, but only this time it's the entire game. Each and every one of those missions you select is all different and non-repetitive. You can select missions on the arena or on the ship where you can transport to another planet and do your thing. There are a total of 10 weapons in this game, which is kind of a bummer compared to the other Ratchet and Clank games, but it's not, because not only each and every one of them are very useful, but you can replay the whole game in challenge mode and level up to level 100. I repeat, level 100. Now that alone is phenomenal. You also have 4 vehicles to ride on: the hover bike, the Pluma, hovership, and the Landstalker. You can also buy mods in your weapons to create more damage to your enemies. Since this game has a lot of features, there is no doubt that this Ratchet and Clank game has more enemies to destroy than any other Ratchet and Clank games to date. I haven't killed so many enemies in a single video game as much as Doom. The multiplayer and the online play has dramatically improved. Compared to Up Your Arsenal, I prefer Up Your Arsenal's multiplayer over Dreadlock because it was a little more balanced. The only downfall I have of this game is that it's not a 3D platformer, it's more of an action game, and other stuff besides blowing shit up is just boring. But other than that, this game gets a 5 fingers out of 5. For any Ratchet and Clank fans who dislike this game, seriously, you gotta be kidding me. Even though it may not be the best of the series, it had more varieties and features than any other Ratchet and Clank game to date. The only things that Jak X and Ratchet Deadlock have in common is 1. The intense hardcore soundtrack. Seriously, just listening to both of these games' soundtrack just makes you want to destroy something. It's a tie for me. 2. Fantastic multiplayer, both co-op and online. Ratchet Deadlock could have won, but it wasn't as balanced or as long timing as Up Your Arsenal, so it's still a tie for me. And 3. Both of the downfalls of the game, those annoying sports commentators / announcers. Seriously, both of them just opens their mouth and say something annoying. There wasn't anything interesting with the commentators in Jak X, but Deadlocked was a lot more funnier, but it does get old. So for that reason alone, yet they are probably one of the best spin-offs that I've ever seen from any video game. Ratchet Deadlock wins this round. Hey, while we still have some time, let me give you a list of my favorite Jak and Ratchet games. Number 8, Jak X Combat Racing. Fun as hell, resembles a lot of the extreme driving games of the 90s. Number 7, Ratchet and Clank. Nice, warm, and dark. Great nostalgia for the early days of the PS2. Number 6, Ratchet Deadlocked. I haven't had this much fun since Doom. Number 5, Jak 3. Had the best features in the Jak series, but the story really did bother me. Number 4, Jak 2. It was the perfect story for an epic game, but couldn't win because my issues of the game being too difficult too quick. Number 3, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. This game itself forever changed the Ratchet and Clank series for what it is today. The only thing it needed was more. Number 2, Jak and Dexter, the Precursor Legacy. I'm gonna be honest, I was one of those guys who likes the first game over 2 and 3. It is completely non-linear, open world, barely any load times, beautifully designed, and a ton of stuff to collect. It's too bad that the later Jak games took out all the collectibles and limited the adventure to make it a GTA sandbox style gameplay. We'll never see a game like this ever again. Number 1, Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. This game itself fulfilled all my gaming needs. Epic story, lovable characters, hilarious comedy, engaging missions to accomplish, best selection of weapons, countless enemies to destroy, RPG elements, puzzling elements, memorable soundtrack, beautiful level design, fantastic multiplayer both online, local, and both combined, great collectibles, great memories, and rarely anything I could nitpick on. All that stuff I just mentioned is the reason why this game is in my top 10 favorite games of all time. With that out of the way, we have to continue on in the PlayStation 3.